dans la culture balinaise, où se mélangent influences animistes bouddhistes et hindouistes, tout dans l'univers, du macrocosme au microcosme, est divisible verticalement en 3 parties, du plus haut au plus bas niveau de pureté. Cela vaut pour l'île, pour les villages, les bâtiments et le corps humain. Chaque chose doit être à sa place pour maintenir l'ordre cosmique. Lorsqu'une âme se réincarne dans le corps d'un nouveau-né, elle descend du ciel du plus haut niveau de pureté. L'enfant ne pourra poser ses pieds au sol, le plus bas niveau de pureté, qu'après la cérémonie des 3 mois.
The classical era of Balinese architecture really started with the export of a Balinese prince to Guidés, to East Java, in about the 10th century. So we have the emergence of a more classical Javanese come South Indian Hindu influence on the temples.
We are Hindu, Muslim, like in India. We believe in reincarnation. We pray to the sun. We pray for the nature. We pray for the all cycle of life. But before in Bali, we call our religion is we call agama tirta, or in English is water religion.
The water flows down through the rivers, but also the spiritual blessings flow down from the gods in the mountains. They flow downhill, and as they flow downhill, they nourish the rice fields, they nourish the villages, they feed people, they wash people, they purify as they come down. If we look at a village, we look at a kingdom, we look at any of the spatial units of Balinese culture, they all have that linear uphill, downhill logic to them. It's called Kaja, which means towards the mountains, and Klod to the sea. So if we're looking now at a village, a typical Balinese village, most of them, there is a road that runs from the sea to the mountains, up the ridge between the rivers, running uphill. They have a row of houses down this side, they have a row of houses down that side. At the top end of the village is a temple called Pura Pusa, which is the temple of the ancestors of the village. Down the bottom end of the village is the graveyard and the cremation yard, and there is a temple called Pura Dalam.
Every village in Bali, we call Desa Pakraman, they have the customary law, which is some are very different to each other villages, and in that customary law that's involved in our philosophy of Tri Hita Karana, which is how to get harmony between people with their belief with their God, human to human and human to environment, through the system what we call Desa, Banjar and Subak. Desa is actually people who taking care of temples, preparing ceremonial. Subak is more relating to farm and rice field. And Banjar is more relating between the activities, ritual for human, from born to death, wedding to filing.
And there's also a community building called a Banjar. There's a very strong sense of community, and the architecture, in a similar way, what are now roads used to be communal living rooms. And the Balinese entertain sitting on the lenang, traditionally, which are little half walls outside a house gate. And that's a sort of a neutral space where people can receive friends, chat, have a cigarette, without the formality that goes with inviting someone inside where they have to be given a mat and a plate full of cigarettes and a cup of coffee. There's not a lot of informal entertaining in the house. People would more tend to do it in the street.
In the Balinese compound, traditionally it's brought by Bhagawan Wiswakarma. He's from Java originally. He is a high priest who introducing the Kosala Kosali in Bali. The orientation of the Kosala Kosali is to mandala, which mandala means the center point between buildings to building. In Balinese we call it natah. So all windows, all doors, all terraces are facing to the center, to the natah itself. Only one person can look after the children is enough. Not everybody has to stay home. Each building, really we need to come to the high priest in order to ask for the main master plan. Housing it based on Tri Hita Karana. In Tri Hita Karana, you must live harmony or respect to God. So you build a temple. It should be on the northeast. There is a building for your ancestor in the temple itself. Then you will have Bali Daja or Gedong. Usually the eldest of the family will stay in Gedong itself. Then we will have Bali Dangin, where you have all cultural ceremony. Then we will have Bali Dau, equivalent to a family living. Then you have kitchen, then when you have guests, there is a place for guests. But mostly the Balinese people is agricultural. Most of us will have rice field. That is our main job. So that's the rice barn. So those are usually in one compound, and then we will have an entrance gate. The distance between each building, it will be taken by the people who own the house by taking its own size. For example, the feet, how long your feet is, how wide your feet is. So, by taking your size, you're gonna live comfortably in the house that built. It's not too big, it's not too small, because it's really based on your size. Our function is the same, our need is the same, but your size is different. If you are tall, man, it means your house is slightly taller. That is why each Balinese compound is different.
There's two aspects to life in everything Balinese. There is the material world that we live in, you and me and your camera and our motorbike and the trees, all of that. In Balinese that's called sakala. It means the material world. It means the ordinary world that we experience through our senses. But behind that is another world called niskala. It means the invisible world. We can call it the spiritual world, the world that we can't see out there. This sakala world is just an illusion that we pass through in that cycle of life. But everything goes through the cycle and disappears. The niskala world is more real, it's more important, and it actually controls the sakala world. And this applies to space, this applies to architecture as well. When you watch in any Balinese household, every morning the woman of the household makes these little basic offerings called saiban. They're just a little pile of rice on a little square of banana leaf. And she makes 10, 20, 30, 40 of them. And she places them at all these different points around her house yard. The first offerings she places on the most important shrines in the family temple. And then she goes to the Balai Daja, where the head of the family lives, to the place in the very centre of the house yard. She also goes to the walls around the house, to the corners, because the corners are weak points where bad influences could come, and so she's protecting those. And then she goes to the kitchen, and she also makes offerings there for Brahma, the Indic god who lives in the fireplace, and Vishnu, the one who lives in the water tank. Finally, usually the last one is at the front entrance to protect the entrance so nothing can come in there. So what she's actually doing there is she's drawing a map of the Niskala landscape of that house yard.
It doesn't happen mostly to all the people, but I myself, I have a experience on not only seeing it, not only feeling it, but also connected by dreams. Even sometimes they talk to me because I was living in the back of the house, which is an extra land that my dad built for the family, and they come and they talk that we need to build another extra temple to give them an offering, not to bless but to apologize, and then so we can have a good relation again. So me and the family is being safe because we believe that this land was not owned by us because we borrow. Everything that over here is borrowed because the spirit has owned it before us live here.
We have ritual purification the land before we build, And then when the building finish, we have a housewarming by ritual and all that to make the building alive, Because in the building, we have the body and the soul.
For us as a Balinese, a house is as important as yourself. That's why many people in Bali will say, your house is the dimension of the human. So if you look unhealthy, I can tell you surely, you don't have a good circulated house or good designed house, If you looking calm, fresh all the time, I don't need to ask you questions. I can see, you must have a nice house. So it's really, really strongly related between the human and the house in Bali. So that's why to build or to look after a house is the most important, because it's same as looking after yourself.
The family temples like my head. Yeah, if something no good in the temple, that means my head is no good. So if something broken or something leaking in my temple, I must be renovation, because that means my head have a problem. And then I hope when my head is good, everybody will be good too. Like we believe about the karma. Good we put and then good we get. So every day in Bali always blessing, and make busy with everything. But we love that because we always want the God help us to make healthy and good family.
suite à la cérémonie de mariage. La femme balinaise doit quitter sa famille pour vivre dans celle de son époux. Nous assistons également à un autre mariage, celui de Bali et de la mondialisation. Comment l'île et ses habitants ont-ils été affectés par cette ouverture au monde ?
Sadly, what we see at first glance in Bali are the ravages of unchecked development, ribbon development, urban sprawl, very little respect for zoning regulations, and a disregard for environmental conservation and architectural conservation. Bali, which through the centuries has developed an extraordinary hybrid architecture, is now going full steam ahead, disappearing.
I live in a really traditional Balinese family with a community and a village, but I also work in a restaurant in Ubud. In Bali, you can easily find job now because of the tourists. Also, there is a lot of place to work when you speak English, like in villas, hotel, restaurant, airport.
"20 years ago, Ubud very quiet in the road. People not have a shop, and then not have many building. And then now, quick growing. Maybe every family have a homestay now. For the business, maybe have a 3 room until 10 room. It's good for the business. Much better now from 20 years ago. Before, I am just live with family. My father, my mother, my uncle, my brother stay together, one room together. And then now, I have homestay, my brother have homestay. Many Bule, many Western come to my house, stay together with me, like family in compound together.
In the 200 years that a European nation went from agricultural society to industrial society to major social changes to technological revolutions. All these revolutions that happened over 200 years are happening here over the last 50 years. The very thing that attracted people in the first place has been destroyed by that, and it's a terrible irony, and it's a very sad irony. What is shocking, especially here, is the level of the culture that was here before, and how intense it was, and how it was reflected in the architecture, how it was reflected in the agriculture, how it was reflected in the social, values, etc. But to see this wholesale, it's like an invasion. It's like a pillage. And you have these buildings in the rice field which don't mean anything. They're just there, they're just dwellings, It shouldn't be done. You're not supposed to live in the rice field. Environmentally, it's disastrous because if you live in the rice fields, inevitably you're going to build a road to get in there. That changes how the water works. You're going to throw your garbage out, etc., 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 etc. And also, we can be honest, and a lot of the people selling and doing this are Balinese themselves.
I think it's because the Western life effect and shocking culture and the touristic makes their mind just pursuit for money. The basically things in life, it's loving each other as human, loving family member, loving the nature. They live it. They didn't realize it. Even they said Tri Hita Karana. It's just words. So I feel like I'm living in a fake world.
So people build like villas, resorts, or hotels, and so there's almost no more rest body left in Bali. So the way I paint this character of the Visri here, being destroyed by the greedy people. It's the character here more like monster, and he want to get a rich and money from the beauty of Dewi Sri, or the beauty of his rice paddy and rice field. She doesn't have any more dignity, almost no proper clothes. You see the character mostly like a monster, like a demon or evil person. But this is the character of the people in the society now.
Urban Balinese, and really 50% of the population in South Bali now live in sort of suburbs. They've deserted, for reasons of space and economy, they've deserted their courtyard style of architecture for a sort of more bungalow style, a more national bungalow style with lots of sort of postage stamp kind of decorative elements.
I'm living in Batu Bulan with my family. We moved here because my father teaching in the college. He also an artist. He doing the wood crafting. And my mom, she is doing translating from Balinese font into our Latin one. When we move here and make this house, it's not as bigger as the traditional Balinese architecture. Like the land is real small, so we only have one building and second floor. We have second floor. Even if it looks like a modern building, actually my father kept the concept of Balinese building. So we still have our temple and our garden, and of course the places of the the pond and the temple and the buildings still going in the Balinese architecture rules. When people coming from their village to the city, they will find that it's really different what they are. Because before they were work outside, and after they come to the city and they will spend a lot of time inside the house. Here we need some interior that makes them really feel comfortable, really feel, like some comfy to stay inside for a long time. That's why I really want to learn about this interior design and want to work with it.
We have a demographic surplus in the Balinese villages here. All the youth from the villages are moving to the city. But in the city, owing to the land speculation, they cannot possibly purchase any land. So they cannot build their own house in the city. So you end up, you see, just renting a room. So you have the creation of an important layer of Balinese population, which is city dweller but landless. And in the long run, I think it's politically and socially dangerous because they are marginalized. Yeah. Owing to the fact, primarily, that the Balinese people, they have lost control over their economy. All the coastal areas have been taken over by outside capital, mainly people from Jakarta, from Surabaya. So the Balinese are relatively prosperous now, but they are not the masters of their own island now. And this is creating potentially, you see, social and even perhaps in the long run political problems here.
Bali has just kind of been an absolute free-for-all. Basically, if you have money, you can show up and put as much cement down as you want and build the tallest buildings you want and steal all the water you want and do everything that you want if you show up with the money. And there's no sort of holds put on development to say, we already have enough hotels, we already have enough shopping malls, do we need, how many more? When do people finally decide, okay, adding another 100-room hotel is going to have a negative impact on the way of life and the culture in Bali? And, I'm not sure that anyone's looking that far ahead. So it's pretty sad to see the lack of respect for future generations' quality of life and well-being. And if things don't change soon, it's going to get pretty bad pretty quick.
And that, if you talk about harmony is something which comes out of justice and comes out of compassion, and something that comes out of the concern for the welfare of others. Harmony is not something because you're afraid. A big part of the perceived harmony of before in Indonesia and in Bali, was because of fear. Don't do that because this will happen. And now we need to change that. We need to have harmony based on, look, this person has the right to have education. This person has the right to have a decent lifestyle. This person has the right to good health care. Why do we have to wait for somebody from Australia to create a mobile hospital? Why shouldn't we, as part of the society, be doing that ourselves? That's where it needs to go.
Apparently, the government, they are very much more fascinated about making more income from tourism. And they are not seeing agriculture as something potential. So I think if the government kind enough to study better about the economy of the people, then we can create some different model and keep them to stay at their village. Yeah, not everybody come to Kuta for making a living. Yeah, and finally everything is destroyed. The southern Bali is also destroyed by the mass tourism, and the other part of Bali is also suffering because of no opportunity, no income from agriculture anymore.
So the religion itself is changing. They pay more and more attention to the fact of being Hindu, at the same time as they tend to pay less attention to the rites, to the offerings and the like. Because people who are looking after the offerings are people who are still in the villages, not the ones who are in the city. So you have the creation of an idealized Bali, at the same time as the real Bali is shrinking, is becoming less and less important.
So I think this is a very serious alert for the island, and we need everybody to get involved more clearly, and I think it's very important for all of us to be more transparent about what's actually happening in Bali. Then we really can think about what is actually the future of Bali, and this is very important. Whether we are at the golden time of Bali or we are at the end of Balinese time, like that.
La mort est pour les Balinais le rite de passage le plus important au cours du cycle de la vie. Afin de purifier l'âme, une crémation individuelle ou collective est organisée. Une fois les cendres dispersées sur la plage, l'âme pourra rejoindre les dieux jusqu'à sa prochaine réincarnation. Un nouveau cycle commence et l'âme continue son évolution dans un nouveau corps. Pendant que les Balinais réfléchissent à la préservation et au futur de l'île, la philosophie du Tri Hita Karana continue de se matérialiser dans l'architecture. Les architectes expatriés la font renaître sous de nouvelles formes, développées à Bali pour le monde.
Now remember that in the 30s, the foreigners, and that included some extraordinary artists, they wanted to live like the Balinese in Balinese houses. In the 70s, when I came, the architects Kerry Hill, Peter Muller, they wanted to build better than the Balinese and teach the Balinese how to preserve their own architecture. But hey, who remembers what the Balinese style is? I mean, my office has ended up being the champion of Bali style in a way. No, there's no cultural reference anymore in the promotion because they've all ganged up against Balinese culture. They can't stand the idea of trances, what they see as tribal belief systems. There are some notable exceptions, but for the most part, you know, we see these budget hotels and it's what the market wants, it's what the people want, and it's all about mass tourism. So You have to design for the mass market to be commercially acceptable. Culture-wise, it's a period of great change. We see a lot of reinventing, of restyling.
For me, that's really important. It's a reinterpretation, you know, because sometimes we misunderstood ecological architecture. Some people think it's like for hippies or for people that live in an alternative way, but it's not like this. I think nowadays, when we talk about sustainability, the most important concept is own sufficiency. And own sufficiency is being able to be independent, you know? And if we can grow our own materials without depending of companies or anyone where we have to go and buy it, you know, that's giving you independence. And bamboo is the best way to do that. You can just go, grow it yourself, cut it, and use it. And people can do it anywhere. It doesn't have to be the material of the poor people. It can be the material for everyone, you know. Bamboo is from all the world. Bamboo develops in all the tropical belts, and there is 1,500 species. And now imagine combining these qualities with the modern technology that we have now, that we are able to treat it. Now we are able to make long-term structures with bamboo, because before it was 10, 15 years, but now we can make structures that last over 50 or 100 years, depending how we use it. And we can see it in the buildings in Bali. Using these kind of materials, it creates a connection in a cultural way, in a social way, in an environmental way. And that's super important in the modern society, because we've lost this connection, you know. We are becoming more individualistic, and we've lost the integration with the nature and as a community. So that's really important.
We went from a more tribal, we were more connected to the natural world, and we went off that. We became disconnected from God, nature, entering a more materialistic, less spiritually connected culture. And now we are kind of relearning connection with nature and with God, but we don't come back to the same place. We come back to a new evolution in which we understand this in a different way that we understood before. Now, in this transformation, we're seeing that architecture is having a quantum leap on the way design is thought. Means we are not just looking at the physical aspect, the functional aspect. We are also looking at the energetic aspect of that space and how that energetic quality of the environment is affecting us. For example, cultures like Bali, all these notions of energy and spirituality are intrinsic to their culture. Now, there's this new science, which is the science of bioarchitecture, which pretty much look at these energetic qualities from a more scientific perspective and actually pretty much prove them in a very rational way. We're using the power of shape, the shape power effects, like for example what a dome is capable to create. Basically spherical environments are really powerful. We also mimic many times the kind of fractality aspects of nature, the kind of fractal design. It's a very powerful tool. When we basically turn our houses in sacred space, We can create an environment that is sacred and we can live in it. It helps you to focus, it helps you to be more aware, to be more present. It also enhances your immune system, and this has been proven. It allows you to sleep better and to lucid dream better and to be more connected to God, to purely what that notion is, like to be connected to everything that we are. Then we can really create that synergetic, symbiotic relationship with our environment. We take something from nature, but we give back. So for the last pretty much 6-7 years, I've been working on this project called the New Earth Project, creating models and designs and developing systems that could potentially serve the creation of this type of community environment.
There's no place like this, no other school like this on earth. It's really beautiful, versatile, and it's meant to be user-friendly. It's meant to look nice. I've asked children many times that would you prefer to sit in a classroom that has walls or not, and everybody has always said that no, this is a lot better. The nature is there, you can see, it's like being a part of the world more.
That's the power of architecture, you know. We actually get inside the psychology of the people, you know. We can make them happy, we can make them depressed with the kind of spaces that we build. And the kind of places we've built lately is boxes, you know, square, closed, you know, but way too hermetic, you know. So we're creating a really stressed ecosystem. And you can see it's reflected in the society of now because we don't have connection with what really makes us alive, you know.
If we really want to create a natural architecture, we need to create an architecture that promotes movement and the exploration of movement. People tend to forget that we have a kinesthetic sense, that the very way we make sense of our environment as human beings is through movement.
What is that what we really need? You know, we really have to simplify our lives to a certain degree to be able to live in harmony with the natural world. Coming back to nature means coming back to simplicity and to the essential. So we believe that if people begins to live in these kind of environments, you know, lots of harmony is going to be created, not just between man and nature, but also in between man and man. Like the very idea of the Balinese Tri Hita Karana.
To apply Tri Hita Karana, it's all using your feeling, your heart. There is no politics in there. There is no business in there. You can't just talk about Tri Hita Karana, but you don't have a feeling for your neighbor, for your God, for the nature. So that's not Tri Hita Karana.
Now, as a Balinese, new generation of Balinese, how do we take care? How do we more protect? How do we keep our Bali? Yeah, a new idea, new program. Even we don't want to change, everything will change. That's life. And pray. Always stay humble. Everything you do, always stay humble and pray. Believe this. Okay. Sukh sama.
It's still incredibly dynamic, incredibly inventive, incredibly artistic culture. I mean, it was Noel Coward who famously said, the Balinese, from the womb to the tomb are creative, there's far too much creative endeavour. That's a good end.